if we continue on this road of identity politics where all I'm going to do is read the headlines, or I don't even need to read anything, I'm just going to vote D or R, we're never going to get anything done. Honestly, it's going to be gridlock. And the America that we know is not going to be the America that I or my family and I risked our lives to come over here. When you leave an institution, your referral is going to dry up because obviously they're going to refer to whatever group, right? And so I had to brainstorm. I said, well, how am I going to break this cycle? And so I figured out that to really break the cycle, you just need to get exposure, which is marketing.
We gon' do it like priceless, take it to the moon. Priceless, one day will be soon. What is priceless?
Hey everyone, it's Dr. Pham again. So this is going to be my 40th episode of D-Talk with Dr. Pham, which is fitting because I'm in my 40s. Even though people say I look like I'm 35, but I think they're trying to get a discount on surgery. But today we're going to change the topic a little bit. I don't like to talk about religion and politics, but, you know, I'm going to hit on that today. And then a lot of people have been asking me to talk about kind of entrepreneurship and, you know, just how do you even get started? And so I'll spend a few minutes just to talk about politics, and this is probably going to be the only episode that I'll probably talk about politics. And, you know, the disclaimer, you know, this is really my opinion only, and so, you know, and I hope you guys enjoy the podcast. I took a little hiatus in June. It was just too much, but we're back stronger than ever. So, you know, the country is just not what it was when I immigrated here in 1985. You know, and I came from a communist country where basically my parents and my siblings have to split up on different boats just in case one capsized. Then, you know, you still have the other half of the family to carry on, you know, the name. Thank God we all made it. But, you know, just social media, the news, you know, everything. It's like nobody reads in between the lines anymore. Everyone just reads headlines and they take it as truth. And it just causes a heated rhetoric. So my take on the politics and the country today that's totally different from the America I know is that it's so polarized, and I don't know why. Okay, and I think a big part of it is identity politics. So basically, people just read the headlines. They don't read in between the lines. They don't fact check. They don't do this. They don't do that. And the fact checkers can be to the right or to the left. And chat GPS, stuff like that has proven that, right? And Microsoft and all that, where basically you teach whatever you teach the program is the answer that you're going to get. And so if you're leaning left, you're going to teach it left ideology. And so when you ask or when you Google, you're going to get left ideology, which is going to suppress the right ideology, versus, you know, you have something like Truth social media where it leans right. And when you read stuff on there, it's totally opposite of, you know, let's say MSNBC or whatever. And I'm not picking sides. What I'm getting at is identity politics has really overtaken this country. And, you know, and for those who don't know, identity politics is basically, it doesn't matter what's good for them at the kitchen table. Like, they're going to vote Democrat or they're going to vote Republican. And that's not how it was when I came here. When I came here, people voted what was important to them on the at the kitchen table. And, you know, their Democrats have good policies, Republicans have good policies, and this two-party thing is always going to be there. But the reason why I appreciate the the politics in America and the Constitution and all that is, try going to Vietnam for 3 months and try saying something bad about the government. I guarantee you'll probably get jailed and your execution will be in about a month. And so a lot of people have died for people to be able to say what they want to say. So my whole thing is, I think the rhetoric really needs to be dialed down, because at the end of the day, America is the greatest melting pot. We're all brothers and sisters. Why are we arguing about two guys that we don't even know, right? And so it's all about policy. You know, look deep inside your heart. What policy do you think will make your life better? Okay? And I have to give it to the founders. I mean, the way they wrote the Constitution and the way they wrote separation of power and all that. Like just the other day, I was reading about how they want to try to limit the Supreme Court's power and all this. The Supreme Court is one of the three branches of government. How are you going to try to limit their power? It's for checks and balances. So, unfortunately, it's very tough to have a Supreme Court justice that may not veer to one side or the other. I mean, that's just the reality of a human, right? The only way to get around that is you got to have a robot, and that's not going to happen. And so, unfortunately, you know, the pendulum will just swing. So one day it'll swing where you'll have a lot of left-leaning justices, and so the right will scream, the left will clap. And right now, the pendulum is swinging towards the right, and so the left is screaming and the right's clapping. And so that's just, but think about it. If you go to a third world country like China or Vietnam, you think you're going to get that? Never. Courts in third world country, communist country, socialist country, it's like a kangaroo court. Okay? There is no protection. So the Constitution of the U.S. is the most powerful document that I know of that really should be respected, and nobody's going to be a dictator. Nobody's going to do this, because why? The original founders wrote it. They purposely put checks and balances so that, let's say the executive branch is out of control. Well, you have the 25th Amendment, right? Or you can impeach them. Just ask Bill Clinton. And so, but my whole point, or even Trump, and so my whole point is, if we continue on this road of identity politics where all I'm going to do is read the headlines, or I don't even need to read anything, I'm just going to vote D or R, we're never going to get anything done. Honestly, it's going to be gridlock. And the America that we know is not going to be the America that I or my family and I risked our lives to come over here. Now, how it is in America right now is still 1,000 times better than what it is in Vietnam. I was just there about a month ago. And just trust me on this. And if for those who don't believe me, take a trip to Vietnam, just a month, and then try burning the Vietnam flag or try making a scene and see what happened. Go to China, try to do the same thing and see what happened. Go to Venezuela, try to do the same thing, see what happened. And so what I'm getting at is, we're all really brothers and sisters in this at the end of the day. And why are we arguing over two guys that we don't even know? So, and I'll leave with this because I have personal experience, and that'll kind of take us into the next part, which is the entrepreneurship. If I was in Vietnam, I would be a farmer. That's why I have 5 siblings. The reason why we have a lot of children in Vietnam is because we work on farms. There's no way I will be able to be where I am today without the freedom and the success and the pathway that America offers. And so regardless of whatever people say, which I really respect, everyone should have their First Amendment right, and information should not be suppressed, because that's what voters use to decide what's best for them. So for those that are identity politics, it's probably not going to sway your opinion. And I'm not here to sway your opinion. All I'm here to do is tell you, trust me on this. I've seen it from the other side when you have such a divided country, because, Vietnam was divided, right? You have the North and the South, and the South lost. And so, but a lot of lives were lost because of that. And as far as a civil war occurring in the U.S., I doubt it. That's just not going to happen. Okay? And so, and all this talk about trying to limit the Supreme Court's power and all that, just trust me on this, because when they moved Supreme Court nomination from 60 to 50 because of what the Democrats did before with, to try to move their legislation, that's how Trump was able to get these conservative Supreme Court justices on the bench. And so, don't start doing stuff like getting rid of the filibuster and all that. Those were all put in place to allow the minority to have a voice. Pretty much all the countries I know of, with the exception of a few, majority rules. It's only in America where you have a country where states like North Dakota or something like that, or Alaska, whatnot, where their population is just small, but they still have equal representation in the Senate. Okay? And it's just, how can somebody, or how can a group of people come together more than 200 years ago to write a document that to this day is the greatest document ever? Now, I won't get into originalist versus, non-originalist interpretation of the Constitution. All I'm trying to get at is, come November, just look deep inside your heart. Leave identity politics if you can, and pick what you think is going to be best for you and your family, or if you're not married or have a family, or for you. And that's all I want to say. Okay? Now, we can jump over to entrepreneurship. So a lot of people have asked me, how did you basically start a business or whatnot, and where you even start, right? Well, starting a business is never easy, I know. However, it's very satisfying, right? Because who doesn't want to be their own boss? And so what I learned early in life was, and maybe my perspective is different because, I came from severe poverty. And so I knew my only way out was going to be education. And I think education is important. Now, you don't need to go to college. It can be trade school, like what my dad did, whatever it is. But the hardest part is how do you not get stop at go? Okay. And so, I don't have like, kind of the intelligence or the luck or whatever, like, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, whatever, right? But to me, money is secondary, because if you put money as your first goal, most likely you're probably going to fail. Okay. Now, money is important because you got to pay bills, employees, whatnot. But that's not how you start. You don't start by saying, you know what, I want to make $1 million a year. Well, okay, everybody wants to make $1 million a year, but how are you going to do it? So, and that's the wrong approach. But that, unfortunately, that's the main approach that I've noticed. Is the first thing people do is put a dollar sign in their head first. Oh, I want to drive a Bugatti. I want to drive a Lamborghini. I want to do this. I want to do that. And that's just really the wrong approach for me. And so why do I know? Because I've been there. When I wanted to start a business with money first, it always failed. But then, it took a while, but, I believe in not reinventing the wheels. And I also believe in I could see further because I stood on the shoulders of giants. So learn from other people. So I hope what I went through can help whoever wants to start their own business or whatever, right? But the first thing you have to ask yourself is, what are you actually passionate about? Are you, do you like to draw? Do you like to sell necklace? Do you like to trade stocks? Do you like to sell life insurance policy? Do you like to build a clinic? Do you like to, whatever it may be? Okay. And then you balance, then the next question you have to ask yourself is, building a business is going to take up a lot of your time. Okay. Elon said it best when he said 16 hours a day, 7 days a week or something like that. And they still call him lucky. He's correct, because genius is actually 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration, right? And so to start a business, you got to ask yourself first, what is it that I'm passionate about that I want to start a business? Now, if you're not passionate about anything and you're happy, being employed and stuff, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think most people are like that. But most jobs that are created are from small business. And those small business are from people who probably work 20 hours a day, And so I just remember, when I finished fellowship, I was working like 16 hours a day, but it was fun because I was passionate about surgery. But once you figure out what you're passionate about, then now if you're single, then that's not a problem. But a lot of people aren't single. They have a family. Okay. And family is very important because they're your backbone. They're your support. And time shows no preference. Once it's gone, it's gone. And so you have to ask yourself, is what I'm passionate about stronger than the time I may need to give up spending time with my family? And that's a personal question that you just have to answer with your significant other and your children. Now, if your kids are grown and, and your wife probably just wants you out of the house anyways, then, man, if I had that, whew. But unfortunately, I don't. My wife wants me home and the kids want me home, and I just have, ADHD. It's like my head's like always on fire. I got to do something. That's why I don't think I'll ever be able to retire. But back to this. So once you find a balance that you think, what I would call the yin and the yang, once you find that balance, then now you got a starting point. Now you're no longer stuck at go. Now it's going to take baby steps, right? And so what I mean by that is now you have to have a plan. So before you start going out, let's just pick something I know, okay? Medicine. So in 2019, I left a major institution which was paying me very well, okay? Like 7 figures well. But, there was just too much political wrangling that I had no control over. And to me, that just wasn't healthy. And so in 2019, I was like, you know what? I'm going to form my own group. And trust me on this when I tell you, forming your own group in Houston, Texas, in the medical center is a beast. Okay? But I'm nothing special. And so if I can do it, you can do it. But you just have to tell yourself, even ordinary people can become extraordinary. That's what Elon Musk says. Not the exact quote. I think it's, he's like, I think ordinary people can become extraordinary. But anyways, so it took months, but I was like, okay, so how exactly am I going to do this? And how am I going to pay for all this? So, because if you don't have a plan and you just nilly-willy open up a clinic, then how are you going to pay for the clinic? How are you going to pay for the rent? How are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? So every day I would just jot down little things that, okay, I would need a lawyer to help me set this up. I would need, this much space. I would need this. I would need that. And then now, could I have done it alone? Probably. But to accelerate the process like 10 times, it's better to get partners. But not just any partners. It has to be partners that believe in you. And so if you start a business and it's going to be a expensive business, it's best to seek out people who are like-minded, who is trying to do what you're trying to do, and then team up. And I'm always a big believer in everybody has their own strengths and everybody have their own weakness. But if you can find everyone that can form a circle, because they can fill in one person's weakness and another person's strong point, they can compensate for each other. And that's what I call the circle of power. I only have 2 partners, so mine would be just the triad of power. But I found two like-minded partners. And, I think I talked about how we formed in the first place. But the most important thing about finding a partner is, A, they also have to not put money as their end goal. Their end goal should be getting the business up and running, get good customer service, or whatever it is. If it's not a customer service related field, but mine is, then everything will work itself out. So every day I would jot down stuff, and then I came to realization, because I was on salary, it was different. And I was like, man, I'm no longer going to be on salary. So it's basically, if I, couldn't do this, I'd be a dead duck in the water. And so I spoke to my wife. I was like, you know what? I really just need to go. And my younger brother was already, I convinced him to do urology because that's another strategy, right? Because you got to prepare. So I was like, okay, I know that in a year I'm going to have a partner. And so I just need to hold off 1 year. And then, after, prior to Brian coming, then Peter made the decision to leave. And then, and that's where we are today. So then basically I told my wife, I said, listen, I know we saved up, for a rainy day, like for emergency. And this is not really an emergency because I can get a job with a group or something like that. Especially kind of what I do, it's not a lot of penis surgeon. And so she was very supportive. She's like, I don't know much about what you do in the sense that the business side. She just knows that, you help children and you help guys. That's it. And so that in and of itself to her is noble. So she said, now in terms of you wanting to do this, to build this or do that, she said, that's really up to you. But she's like, if you fail and we have to live in an apartment, then we'll live in an apartment. I mean, that's just the way it is. But, but that's what America is, right? And so I took the leap and basically, but I prepared. I understood that medicine is really a customer service based profession. And so I always tell my employees, I'm not your boss. I'm just the one paying you guys. Your real boss are the patients. Because without the patients, how is anybody going to get paid? So what you do is you need to treat your patients as if they're VIP. Okay? And second thing is, which is very important, is marketing. Because when you leave an institution, your referral is going to dry up because, obviously they're going to refer to whatever group, right? And so I had to brainstorm. I said, well, how am I going to break this cycle? And so I figured out that to really break the cycle, you just need to get exposure, which is marketing. So like the production crew I use is Focus, and trust me on this. For the amount that they charge me, just a couple surgeries more than pays for what they do. And they come to your place and everything. So, but just, if you're interested, just reach out. But they're very good. I've been working with them for a while, and even at one point, I think we were like almost top of the chart on iTunes. I mean, they're legit. They really understand a lot of stuff that goes into podcasts and stuff like that. And so what I did was I asked people who are in private practice, hey, what worked for you? What did not work for you? Because why try to reinvent the wheel by doing it alone? And believe it or not, there's a lot of nice people out there that will tell you, hey, this works, this doesn't work, whatnot. And so I took all of that down. I wrote everything down, and stuff. And so what I realized was not only was customers or patients are your boss, but you really need to focus on what it is that you do best. Because hence the term, jack of all trade, master of none. And so my partners and I, we all have agreed that we will all specialize in something that we really enjoy, because that's how you get good. And so that's why, can I take out a kidney? Yes. Can I, take out a cancer? Yes. But why do I want to do that when I have a partner that can do it much more efficiently, up to date on the data and all that? Versus fix what I like to do, which is botch penis, or, penis that just wasn't formed correctly, or whatever it may be. And, I do about 500 cases a year, or sometimes more. But that's the only way to be good. I mean, that's the reality. So whatever it is that you want, which brings me back to the point, is what are you passionate about? And if you're passionate about, like for me, I'm passionate about medicine. And then I basically spoke with the family to decide, okay, in the beginning, at least 5 years, I'm not going to be at home as much, but I'm going to put effort into spending time with the family so that the yin and the yang can mix. But keep in mind that you're doing this for the future, right? And so then what I did was exposure, which is marketing. Nowadays, if you're going to start a business, you got to have a website. Like that's not even that the website is basically just think of it like building a house. The website really is just the door. If you don't even have a website, I mean, consider it gone. Okay? Then the next thing you need is you're going to need marketing, because my technology partner once told me this, and he's right. He goes, you can come out with the greatest program or the greatest product in the world, but if people don't know about it, how are you going to sell it? Right? So business is no different. You can cook the best fajitas, but if people don't know about it, then how are you going to sell it? And so, yes, marketing can be a little pricey, but in the long run, trust me, it will make it worth your time, because it will move you up on the number one website, which is Google. So then next time, basically when they type in, let's say, top pediatric urologist, boom, whose name do you think is going to pop up? And then if you treat your partner, if you treat your patients as if they're a VIP, which they are because they're the one paying your bills, and ask them just put in their honest opinion about their experience, patients will do it. And if you focus only on what you're good at, then they're really going to put in a review. Versus if you're just going to be a jack of all trade, then everything's going to be done, half right. Because there's no such thing as everybody being good at everything. I know that a lot of surgeons think that. Trust me on this. They're not. And so once you get that, you get your passion, this is what I want to do. You figure out if you have a family. If you don't have a family, then that's easier. But if you have a family, you figure it out with the family. Okay, on this day, we're going to do this, but on this day, I'm going to be late, whatever it may be. It's different for everyone, right? And then from there, then you slowly, or what I did, then you slowly just do the best you can, and then patients will put a review up for you. Now, for some reason, getting a medical review is so difficult. They'll review a taco before they'll review a surgeon that saved their life. I never really understood that, but they're standing in line at a new taco joint and they're already reviewing a taco they haven't even ate. And I'm talking about like a taco that you eat, not like, you guys that have their brains in the gutter, not that taco. Okay. So, but my whole point is, I don't get it. Like, how is it that it's so hard for a patient to review someone that literally just changed your life, but when it comes to reviewing a taco or a hamburger, they're like, boom, you got it. And so, but anyways, that's a topic for another day. But my whole point is, if you really do what you're really passionate about, people will know you, and nothing is more powerful than word of mouth. But before word of mouth can occur, you have to have a starting point. And the starting point has to be, you gotta get your name out there. And to get your name out there, unless you really understand SEOs and how to, do this, do that, which I think most people understand the concept, but putting it to practice is not easy. And what I mean by that is, why do you think I fix botched penis all the time? It's because you have surgeons that understand the concept, but when they try to put it into practice, they fail. And so go with a company that has a proven record. And so, but once you get your name out there to a point where people catch notice, then they're going to want to come to you, right? And so, yeah, and so of course it's scary and all that, but life's not worth living if, for me anyways, if I made the treacherous trip from Vietnam to over here, then I'm going to give it my all. And so basically in a span of 5 years, we bought our own building so that they can never raise rent on us. We got the green light to put a one-room surgery center so that we can just keep it running. And on top is just a 5,000 square foot studio or something that, that we'll figure that out. But without my partners, without the passion, without the understanding from the family, none of this will happen. And so, but like I said, 99% is going to be perspiration. So, you can't sit there and dream. Okay? A dream can only become a reality once you start it. And so I hope that answers a lot of questions on how you actually start a business. Now, if you come from a rich family and you got millions of dollars and all that, that's not the majority of Americans, okay? The majority of Americans probably, first of all, the majority of millionaires in America did not come from money. They worked hard and they built their way up. But, I didn't know everything about the medicine business. So I asked a lot of people, and these are free advice. Why not take it? And, and you'll know if it's a bad advice, right? And so basically, once you get the passion figured out, once you get the family situation figured out, then you will find a way for the financial to work. You may not be able to start big. That's okay. You start small. A lot of companies are like that. They start out small, they do a really good job, and then they expand, right? And so, like right now, we're in a 16,000 square foot, but we work hard. We do our very best. We keep to our principle. And here in about 9 months or so, the 16,000 square feet is going to become a 15,000 square feet. And that's just the bottom, right? And it doesn't even stop there, because we have doctors that ask if they can franchise our name. We're not really there yet, right? And so now I do some other business too, but I'm just going to focus on the medicine, because that's what I'm passionate about. But that's really how you start, okay? And so, but you gotta have the finance, and if you're passionate about it, you're gonna get the finance, and then the next step is marketing. You already found out what you're passionate about. So let's not talk about medicine for a second. Let's say you bake a pie. You just baked like this just awesome pie. Well, I wouldn't even know where to find that pie unless I saw an ad. And a bunch of people were like, man, that pie is good. And I'm not talking about the pie on, what is that movie? American something, where he stuck his hand in a apple pie. Anyways, I don't remember. But for all you guys with your head in the gutter, I'm not talking about that pie, okay? I'm talking about like real pie, like something you can eat. I mean, you can eat the other pie too, but that's not what I'm referring to. This is a clean show. So anyways, you eat the pie, or you make a very good pie, but if you don't market it, then how am I going to know about it? And so you spend some time marketing it so that people know about it. And then after that, the word of mouth and the reviews will take care of itself. And then next thing you know, you may be at a food truck pie, and now you have an empire of pies, and so I hope that really helps anybody who is on the cusp of trying to pull the trigger on whether they should, go do their own business. Now, you need to think very hard though, because once you start and then you stop, that's wasted time and wasted money. So first thing you got to do is do some deep soul searching. Am I happy at where I'm at work? If the answer is no, then there's no point in you continuing. Move on. So that's why during COVID, a lot of medical professionals, because they couldn't operate or work or whatever it is, then they all were basically passionate about something, and they started their own business. And that's why in Houston, it can be a little difficult to find healthcare workers, is because they ended up making more money than they would have, but it wasn't, if you talk to a lot of these people, it wasn't the money that drove them. It was because they had nothing to do. And they weren't going to stay at home and just make babies. And so they were going to, they found something they were passionate about, whatever it may be. And from there, apparently I talked to a lot of them, and they're doing very well, that they're never going to go back to the medical profession. For me, I'm going to slow down at some point because I just have too much projects on my hand, but I'll never give up medicine just because it's something that I was so passionate about. And number two, Crescent Urology is really the house that penis built. Always remember that. It's not the house that cancer built. It's not the house that female urology built. It's the house that penis built. So even if I slow down, even the fence is going to be looking like a bunch of penises. And so, but it's going to be short penis shrooms so that, basically if the fence doesn't work, people can just kind of walk over it. That's a joke, by the way. So anyways, I hope this helps anybody who is kind of on the cusp of like, man, should I start my own business or should I not, So anyway, so today's episode, I know is not about urology, but I think it's important to talk about kind of what's trending. And what's trending is just the rhetoric in politics. It's just sad to just see people arguing, losing friendship over two guys that we don't even know. But I love talking about business and giving out advice that worked for me so that you don't have to go through the process yourself. And so that's pretty much it. And so I hope you enjoyed this episode. And then next episode, we'll probably resume with, urologic topics and And I'm gonna try to mix some comedy in here, and then we're probably gonna start actually having patients call in or people call in or guests, just to change it up a little bit. But so that's pretty much it. And so if you have any questions or anything, just shoot out a text on the video. And remember, it's D-Talk with Dr. Pham. And I think on Spotify and Facebook, and I think Facebook is D-Talk with Dr. Pham. YouTube is D-Talk with Dr. Pham. And I think Instagram is D-Talk with Dr. Pham. But I'm not sure. They'll confirm it. But if you type in D-Talk with Dr. Pham on Spotify or Apple, I think you will find it. And so that's pretty much it, okay? So until next time, this is Dr. Pham signing off. And thanks for listening. Give me a feedback, subscribe, so that, I can keep doing this. Because remember, I do this just as a community service. I'm not trying to make money off this or whatever. I probably make more money operating. But I do, a lot of people have helped me in the past with advice and all that. So just think of me doing this as a way of paying forward. All right? This is Dr. Pham signing off.
Like it's priceless, take it to the moon. Priceless, one day will be soon. Like it's priceless.